everyone. We are back with another one of our series for our Earth Day Good Work shows. This is going to be a good one.
This is fun. I like, it's kind of interesting. Every time we talk to somebody, it's like this layer. So I will announce to everybody after talking to Rodale, is that last week? I think it was. So I will say, and here's the thing, like I buy organic food sometimes, but I will say this is probably the first time I was very intentional about making organic purchases. Like on my regular Amazon order, I have stuff that's always there, but like I went and I looked for the organic option for that. So I'm like, okay, where are the organic eggs? Where's the organic? So I feel very proud of myself.
That's good. I already buy organic eggs. I want to get the farm fresh though, which there are people in my neighborhood I can get them from, but
get some chickens. You got space for chickens?
No. I am going to start a garden though. My brother has a very nice garden, and he and my sister and I spent a bunch of time on Saturday on the phone, and he was giving us all the tips. Now, he has a lot of stuff going on at his house, but I'm just going to start with the stuff I use a lot of, which is herbs. And he was like, oh yeah, you're good. You could do that like super easy. So that's where I'm going to start off with. And then once I get out to visit him, I want to go, because apparently he has some lemons that are like the bomb apparently in his backyard. And my sister has told me. So I got to go all the way to California to get them. That's not real green, but but he has a really, I need to see his setup in person. I've seen pictures and it's pretty sweet. So yeah, I'm going to learn from my brother, and then I might have to go on the Rodale and get that, do that little webinar that they have.
Yeah, do the training.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So, small things, but they matter. And today we're going to talk to the John Lanier, who's executive director of the Ray C. Anderson Foundation. And they kind of specialize in that. Well, not all small things, but also big things, but things that are, yes, impacting climate change. And that could go from really, really, really big things to things that you can do, that right there in your house. So it'd be good to talk to them and how they're connecting with organizations that are making an impact in that space.
All right. So let's hear from John. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. As we said, we're continuing our series on celebrating Earth Month, and we've got a great organization on. They've been on with us before, and it's good to have them back on. So we've got John Lanier, who is with us, and he is the executive director of the Ray C. Anderson Foundation.
Yeah, so we're great to hear from John. So tell us a little bit about the organization. Tell us your mission and what you guys do over there.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to be back on the show. We are a nonprofit organization, a grant-making foundation that supports organizations doing good work in the environmental sustainability space. And that's because of our namesake. Ray Anderson was a successful businessman, started a company called Interface that manufactures carpet, but in the last 17 years of my grandfather's life, he worked with the people of Interface to make the company as environmentally sustainable as it could be. He was a true pioneer in green business practices. And so when he passed away and left his estate to this foundation, it was clear to us that to advance his legacy, we needed to find great organizations doing work in the environmental space. So our job is to support those organizations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about, so how do you connect with organizations? So what are you looking for when you're saying, okay, we want to support the work that this organization is doing in, a variety of different spaces?
Yeah, there's a saying about foundations. If you know one foundation, you know one foundation. They're all different. They all have their own ways of operating. And that's true of us as well. We are very narrow and intentional about the grants that we make and therefore the partners that we collaborate with. And that's not to be exclusionary. There are so many tremendous organizations that are doing something connected to the environment. But we felt like we had a particular legacy to advance, and that to do so, we needed to be very intentional about ways that we can help be a catalyst for larger scale systems change on the environmental issues that resonate most with us. So we tend to be very active in finding our partners, and there's often a story that explains why we collaborate with one particular environmental organization. Recently, in the past few years, we found there's a common thread that runs through basically all of our work, and it's the issue of climate change. Because of all of the environmental issues, that's the one that we feel is most urgent, that needs to be solved in order for all of the other challenges that we're trying to solve to be solvable. It's the ultimate issue. And so in many respects, that is the defining characteristic of most of our grant making now.
That's really interesting. And as we all start to learn more about what it actually means, what climate change actually means, I think it was just really interesting on how that is the root cause of so many other problems that we have. I think when we were growing up, you heard about global warming or, the hole in the ozone layer. And, we had certain connotations about what those things were. But when we think about climate change and we talk about the idea that it will impact housing, it'll impact food insecurity, it'll impact, geopolitical issues, just with the way that people are going to be forced to move and relocate in spaces, and it's just going to potentially change the demographics of places. It's really interesting to see, an organization looking at the root cause of climate change and how it impacts a number of issues, not just necessarily when people think about the warm, fuzzy, well, a little too warm, maybe not fuzzy, kind of wet, issue of climate change as it just relates to like weather and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's true not just to the negative, like these bad things will happen in ways that real people will feel and be impacted. By the way, it's happening now, not just that it will happen in the future. We're already seeing the impact of climate in communities across the world, including here at home in the South. You want to talk about heat waves. Those are scary for so many of the people in our communities who don't have the ability to protect themselves from that. So to the negative, there's all of these connection points from climate to other issues that we care about. But it's also true to the positive. This is where our foundation is focused, not on climate change, the problem, on climate change, the solution set. We've been a part of an initiative called Drawdown Georgia. And the entire idea behind Drawdown Georgia is to identify the top climate solutions for the state of Georgia. What works best here to help solve the problem? And then to identify how those solutions not only address issues of greenhouse gases, but critically how they address the other things that we care about. What climate solutions will bring new jobs to Georgia, if that's the thing that resonates most with you? What climate solutions will improve human health, something that after the age of COVID, we're all so much more mindful of? Which solutions will preserve our natural environment? Many of them. And critically, most importantly, what solutions can advance equity? Which are the solutions that can give us the opportunity to lift up those within our communities who've been left behind time and time again, and who are feeling the brunt of climate change most severely? So that the issue of climate really is interconnected and interwoven into the fabric of human life, and certainly life here in Georgia. And if we do it right, if we work on the problem the right way, we can solve a whole bunch of challenges at the same time.
Yeah. So John, I had to move. So sorry about that. I had to relocate. Speaking of change, I guess I had a whole climate change over here. But so interestingly enough, what if you could just really briefly, like, what are one or two of those big things that you think could make a big impact, or maybe there's small things that can make a big impact on our climate here in Georgia. Because I think a lot of people hear it and they think, oh, this is so big, this is bigger than me, this is for the folks who work in that industry to solve. I'm just one person, I can't really do it. So break it down for us. Give us like one or two of the little, really easy, simple things that people can do.
Yeah, there's a shockingly large number. So Drawdown Georgia, before I give you the answer here, Drawdown Georgia started with research conducted by some of Georgia's best universities, a collaboration across the University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, Emory University, and Georgia State to look at which climate solutions are best. And they found that they spread across multiple sectors. So some of the more obvious ones are in the electricity sector. As you might imagine, having more solar panels in the state will do quite a bit to address our carbon footprint as a state. That's true both of rooftops, but also, and even more importantly, of utility scale solar, big solar farms. But we need to be intentional about where we put them. If we're cutting down a bunch of trees to put in solar panels, we're cutting off our nose to spite our face in so many respects, because reforestation is another of the climate solutions. Very different from putting in a solar panel, but nature already does so much to pull greenhouse gases back down. So planting more trees, as you might expect as well, is one of the solutions. So too are some of the less obvious things. Reducing food waste. We should be doing this because there's a lot of hungry people in our communities. It turns out it also reduces greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And other things in the food space, like composting, is a climate solution as well. The last thing that I'll say is that of all of the sectors where Georgia is putting greenhouse gases up into the atmosphere, the biggest one is transportation. That's where most of our impact comes from. So sure, the culprits of our typical internal combustion vehicles are there, and electric vehicles would go a long way to solving it. That's one of the solutions. But so too is alternative mobility, mass transit. There's a wide range of solutions identified by Drawdown Georgia. And I promise you, every person can find one that resonates with them and that they feel empowered to make a difference on.
Fantastic.
That's great. So one of the things I like the idea we were saying about small things. We had another interview last week, I think it was, and talking about buying organic, and I had to do grocery shopping, and I'm like, okay, fine. It's like what my normal things, and like, let me go find the organic option because that's a small incremental step in the right direction. So I think, those kinds of things actually, and now I think you're the third guest we've had in the recent time that talked about composting, which is starting to be like this pinging sign that probably needs to start happening in my household too. So we'll see. And I think we're actually talking to Compost Now soon. So
great.
That may be the thing that pushes me over the edge. But where can people go find out information about the projects that they're doing? So it sounds like you're doing a ton of really interesting work. And obviously we don't have enough time here to talk about all of them. So where can people go to find out more information?
Yeah, I'd love for people to visit one of two websites, hopefully both. The Ray C. Anderson Foundation's website is raycandersonfoundation.org. And that's how you can learn about our overall programs and what we're funding. More about the story of Ray Anderson himself. But this Drawdown Georgia initiative that I spoke to is at drawdowngA.org. And that is a really innovative website that brings climate solutions to life. So I think people will probably find that they can spend quite a bit of time there learning a ton and finding some amazing tools that help them truly visualize what it will take for Georgia to become a leading state on scaling climate solutions.
Well, fantastic. Well, John, thank you so much for all of the insight and giving us two websites where you can go. So definitely check out Ray C. Anderson Foundation's website, audience, and then also Drawdown Georgia. And I'm going to just go out on a limb and say, John, like if we all did one little small thing, it would add up to something. So whether it's composting, whether it's buying organic, whether it's taking alternative transportation, if you can move to an electric vehicle, if you can just do one thing, then I think we can all make a big impact. So we appreciate your time today and appreciate the work that you and your team are doing at Ray C. Anderson Foundation.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Absolutely.